US energy giant ExxonMobil has sharply lowered its estimate of how much crude oil it can extract at a profit. It's the biggest such revision in 20 years. The company revised down its so-called proven reserves figure by 19%. That's equivalent to a drop of about 3.5 billion barrels of crude oil. Its Canadian tar sands project, which it bought for $16 billion, accounted for most of the cut. The revision left Exxon with 20 billion barrels of oil at the end of 2016. The second year running, it's reduced its reserves figure. Joining me now for more on this from Dubai is Robin Mills, Chief Executive Officer at research firm Qamar Energy. Robin, thank you very much for joining us once again here on Money Talks. So break this down for us a little bit. In simple terms, what exactly are proven oil reserves?
Well, proved reserves are an accounting measure, really, and they're one that companies that are listed or reporting in the US are obliged to record. And it's an estimate of at current oil and gas prices, and with current technology, what oil and gas can be recovered from the company's assets in the future. And so it's based on average oil and gas prices in the previous year. And of course, you know, the past year was a time of low oil and gas prices, and it's not surprising, therefore, that some of Exxon's reserves and other companies have looked at that way of were not economically viable.
Right. So I'm glad you picked up on that point, that oil prices have been falling quite precipitously since 2014. Now, last year, ExxonMobil came under investigation by the US Securities and Exchange Commission for not reducing its reserves figure as prices fell. So is their latest move a response to that legal action?
Well, this is quite an interesting one. I mean, of course, when a company reduces reserves, it doesn't mean the oil and gas has gone away. It's still in the ground. Probably it still can be recovered. And I think Exxon said it in this case, if prices improve or if technology improves or costs are cut to make the reserves viable again. Now, it was, I think, surprising, although Exxon did cut its reserves last year, but not by much, that, you know, we've had low oil and gas prices since the middle of 2014, and other companies have taken major cuts to their reserves, and Exxon not so much, you know, even though we're well into this period of low prices. Exxon itself has said it expects prices to recover, and they, of course, prices are up from late last year. But that doesn't alter the fact, of course, that average prices last year were low, and those are the prices that Exxon would have been using. So yes, it is surprising. I think Exxon takes these big cuts now and not say last year.
Yeah. Robin, the methods and assumptions that oil companies use to make these figures varies widely from company to company and from region to region, and yet it's crucially important because it ultimately determines or helps to determine the price of oil. Can oil companies be regulated better for them to be more transparent about how they do this?
Well, the US rules for companies listed in New York are pretty strict and quite clear. As you say, there's a different set of rules for companies that are reporting in the UK, a different set in Russia, and so on. So there are different standards. But if you look at a company listed in the US, like Exxon, of course, but also including other European majors like BP or Shell, they're all reporting to the same standards. Now, yes, there's some room for interpretation and so on. But I think if you think back to 2004, when Shell itself had its own reserves scandal, as it was described then, when it turned out that Shell had been overstating its reserves, there was a lot more tightening up, a lot more scrutiny on oil and gas companies, and an attempt to make this a more standard process. And I think that's perhaps why this move of Exxon is a bit surprising.
Terribly sorry, Robin Mills. We're running out of time. Wish we could talk more on this. Robin Mills, Chief Executive Officer of Qamar Energy in Dubai. Thank